He's a global icon, a symbol of peace and non-violent resistance. We see his face on stamps, statues in city squares, and we've all heard the name Mahatma Gandhi. But the man we think we know is often a simplified version, a legend carved in stone. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of the myth and look at the complex, sometimes contradictory, and ultimately more human story of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. This is the untold story of the man they called the Great Soul. Let's start before the famous white loincloth and round glasses. Born in 1869 in Porbandar, India, Gandhi was not a born saint. He was a shy, unremarkable student who was terrified of public speaking. In his autobiography, he admits to stealing, smoking, and even eating meat, which was a huge taboo in his devout Vaishnava Hindu family. He was married at the young age of 13 to Kastabai, a girl his own age. This wasn't an epic romance. It was a traditional arranged marriage, and their relationship would be a long and often difficult journey of its own. The first major turning point wasn't in India, but in London. At 18, he sailed to England to study law. Imagine this young man from a small Indian town thrust into the heart of the British Empire. He tried desperately to fit in, taking lessons in dancing, French, and elocution. He even bought a top hat. But this effort to become an English gentleman was short-lived. He soon realized that his identity and his strength lay not in imitation, but in his own roots. He rediscovered vegetarianism, not just as a religious practice, but as a moral philosophy. Joining the London Vegetarian Society and engaging in intellectual debates for the first time. This is where the seeds of his unique blend of Eastern and Western thought were sown. After becoming a lawyer, he struggled to find work back in India. He was still shy, and his first court case was a disaster. He was too nervous to even speak. So, he took a one-year contract for a legal case in South Africa. That 1 year turned into 21. South Africa was the crucible, where Mohandas, the lawyer, was forged into Gandhi, the activist. We all know the famous story. He was thrown off a train in Pietermaritzburg for being in a first-class compartment, despite having a ticket. But this wasn't an isolated incident. This was the daily reality of racial segregation. He was beaten, insulted, and barred from hotels. This constant humiliation lit a fire within him. He decided to fight back, but not with fists or weapons. He began organizing the Indian community, writing petitions, and holding meetings. Here in South Africa, he developed his powerful weapon, satyagraha, which translates to truth force or soul force. It wasn't passive resistance. It was active civil disobedience. It was about confronting injustice with courage, accepting the punishment without retaliation, and in doing so, appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. It was a radical idea. He organized massive strikes and marches, and thousands, including himself and his wife Kastabai, were jailed. It was through these struggles that he simplified his life, renouncing material possessions and adopting the simple clothing of the poor. He was no longer just fighting for legal rights. He was fighting for human dignity. When he finally returned to India in 1915, he was 45 years old and already known as Mahatma or Great Soul, a title he himself disliked. But India was a different challenge. It was a subcontinent of immense diversity and division. He spent his first year traveling the country by train in third-class carriages to see the real India, the India of impoverished villages. He was horrified by the poverty he saw. His first major campaign in India was in Champaran in 1917, where he fought for the rights of indigo farmers who were being brutally exploited by British landlords. He used the same satyagraha tactics he had honed in South Africa. He was arrested, but the massive support he gathered forced the authorities to back down and negotiate. It was a huge victory, and it announced his arrival on the national stage. From there, his influence exploded. He led the non-cooperation movement, the Salt March, and the Quit India movement. The Salt March is perhaps his most iconic protest. In 1930, the British had a monopoly on salt, taxing it heavily. It was a law that hit the poorest the hardest. So, Gandhi decided to walk 240 miles to the sea to make his own salt, in defiance of the law. He started with a few dozen followers, but by the time he reached the coast, the crowd had swelled to tens of thousands. His simple act of picking up a handful of salty mud sparked a nationwide movement. Millions of Indians began making and selling salt illegally. It was a brilliant piece of political theatre that captured the world's imagination and exposed the absurdity of British rule. But Gandhi's story isn't just a series of triumphant protests. It's also filled with deep complexities and personal struggles. His relationship with his family, particularly his eldest son, Harilal, was fraught with conflict. Harilal felt neglected and overshadowed by his father's public life. He rebelled, converting to Islam for a time and struggling with alcoholism, a source of immense pain for Gandhi. This reminds us that even great leaders have personal tragedies and failures. Furthermore, Gandhi's views were not always as progressive as we might think. In his early years in South Africa, his activism was focused almost exclusively on the rights of Indians, and some of his writings from that time used derogatory language to describe black Africans. While his views evolved over time, it's an uncomfortable part of his history that is often ignored. He was a product of his time, and his journey towards a more inclusive vision of justice was not instantaneous. His commitment to non-violence was also tested to its absolute limit. He undertook numerous fasts, some lasting for weeks, literally using his own body as a weapon to stop riots and violence between Hindus and Muslims. These weren't just symbolic gestures. They were life-threatening acts of moral blackmail, as he himself sometimes admitted. He was desperate to prevent the partition of India, which he called the vivisection of the motherland. The partition of India and Pakistan in 1947 was perhaps his greatest failure. Despite his tireless efforts, the country was torn apart by horrific communal violence. Hundreds of thousands were killed, and millions were displaced. In the midst of this carnage, Gandhi, now in his late 70s, walked barefoot through the villages of Bengal and Bihar, trying to quell the flames of hatred. He would go to the heart of the riots and simply refuse to leave until the fighting stopped. His presence alone often had a calming effect, a testament to the moral authority he commanded. Just 5 months after India gained its independence, on January 30th, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. He was shot by a Hindu nationalist who believed Gandhi was too accommodating towards Muslims and was weakening the new nation of India. His killer saw Gandhi's message of peace and unity as a betrayal. In a tragic irony, the greatest apostle of non-violence died a violent death. His last words were reportedly "He Ram," or "Oh God." So, who was Mahatma Gandhi? He wasn't a god or a perfect saint. He was a man who struggled with his temper, his family, and his own prejudices. He was a brilliant political strategist who could mobilize millions with a single symbolic act. He was a deeply spiritual person whose politics were inseparable from his faith. He made mistakes, he had contradictions, and he experienced profound failures. But it is in this complexity that his true greatness lies. His story is not about being born a hero, but about becoming one through relentless struggle, self-reflection, and an unwavering commitment to his principles. He showed the world that one person, armed with nothing but courage and conviction, could challenge an empire. He proved that our greatest weapon is not violence, but our shared humanity. The untold story of Gandhi is the story of a flawed, complicated, and utterly extraordinary human being who changed the world forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what you find most surprising about the real Gandhi. See you next time.